What is the responsibility of the BSP and system software engineer? The first thing BSP engineer has to do is to bring up the target devices. In this video, let's explore about the procedure of bring up task. So bring up task can be categorized into two parts. The first thing is source bring up. A second thing to do is troubleshooting for your target device. So first of all, let's talk about the source bring up task. The first thing we have to do is get the source code from SoC vendor. If your chipset and SoC vendor is Qualcomm, then you will get the source from Qualcomm. A source code from the SoC vendor is called BSP. When the SoC vendor releases the BSP code, we provide us with the Git repository information to pull source code. So we have to be familiar with the Git command because SoC vendor provide some information of source code with Git repository information. Sometimes SoC vendor specify the certain compiler version. In this case, we have to install the compiler in your Linux machine such as Ubuntu. After you install compiler, you try to build a source code. In many times, the build failed with error message. In this case, troubleshooting is required to fix those kind of problem. So SoC vendor sometimes provide the document which include build command or Git repository information to get the source code. So please contact SoC vendor to know about this information. So second thing to do is to build the source code. After it is compiled without error, it's time to analyze the build system. We have to check the build system to know how total image is generated. What should we do to analyze the build system? The first, we have to find the makefile which specifies the feature and configuration of the system. Until now, we have used command to build the system recommended by SoC vendor. To generate our own build script, it is necessary to know the build architecture. Many times we have to customize device tree in Linux kernel driver. So we are in the situation to add the features in the makefile. So we have to get used to it. So now that we have obtained the BSP source code and build the source code successfully, what is the next step for the source bring up? Last thing to do is to check the flash and debugging tool. The SoC vendor provide fresh tool like QD loader, which make it possible for some BSP developer to flash their own fresh images. Several images include the kernel boot image and system image and bootloader image and so on. Sometimes SoC vendor give us information document which describe how to use the fresh tool. So if you do not have such a document, you should contact SoC vendor to get information about how to use the fresh tool. So until so far, I have talked about the source bring up process. So if you develop the reused platform, which means that this project has already developed in another department, another division, you might skip this step. But if you are using a new chipset project, you have to go through those steps. So next step for bringing up the target device is troubleshooting. Hardware engineer will bring the new target device to your working places. Now it is time to bring up the target device. What's the first thing to do for troubleshooting? First, you have to flash images with target device using flash tool provided by SoC vendor. If the downloading is complete, we have to connect the device with UART console to monitor what's going on inside the target device. And then you will give the power to your target device, which means that the charger cable should be connected with the target device. And then you will observe that UART console display booting message to display the activity inside the system. So as for freeing up task, there are several things I would like to talk about. So, the first thing we have to keep in mind is that we have to fully prepare for the bring up task. No matter how we make an effort to prepare 100% for bring up task, we might go through unexpected issue that we did not observe before. Take for example, crash might occur in the bootloader. In this case, we might be in the situation to use the trace32 on-circuit debugger to debug the bootloader. I think that it is too late to learn how to use trace32 on-circuit debugger when we are about to troubleshoot into the booting issues. So we have to know the way to use the trace32 debugger before we start bring up task. So another thing we have to do in advance is to understand the boot sequence 100%. We can identify what's wrong in the system during the boot up process. So for this, we have to understand how system boot after you give the power to the target device. Second thing we keep in mind is that we might be under much stress during the bring up task. If some issues occur during bring up task, such as crash, lag up, I think the project manager will come to your place to know what happened in your system. If you cannot explain the symptom properly, project manager will be frustrated. Sometimes they give you a lot of stress because the delay of the bring up task will have impacts on project schedule. The reason is that another software engineer, such as middleware software engineer or application engineer, cannot even start their work because they do not have the sample or target device which is working properly. As for me, I overworked more than 1 day until the bring up task is completed successfully. So if you realize that you don't even understand issues like crash, lag up, I think that you might be under much more stress. In this case, you cannot even start analyzing the issues. If you go through this situation, please report this situation to your project manager exactly. The most important thing is clear communication. Project manager might bring another software engineer, making them get involved with these issues. And project manager can do more to get support from another department, which include SoC vendor or headquarter department, and so on. So if you do not tell the project manager what exactly happened in the system with the issues, it might cause disaster eventually. So project manager, I think, have plan B for the project. So as I think that bring up is repeated task. So during the project, migration is performed every 1 month. So after migration is completed, this last thing to do is to reserve the config commit. After config is reserved, we have to go through the same step to bring up the target devices. So I think that to be the brilliant BSP engineer, I think that we have to be familiar with the bring up task. So in this video, I share you with several tips we can follow during the bring up task. I hope this material will be helpful for your development. Bye.